French bread can be challenging when you don't have the right oven. We need the deck oven with the sprays, the steam to help with the crust. But it doesn't matter, we can still make some decent French bread at home. So let's try. Okay, so let's put some warm water here for the starter. 580 grams of water and half a teaspoon of yeast. And we're going to wait and let it activate a little bit, and then we'll add the flour. And now we need is 600 grams of water. It's almost equal parts of water and flour. And I'm just gonna use a fork. That's good enough for the starter because it's very liquid. And then we are going to let this rise overnight. So I think it's about 7:30, 8 o'clock now. That's enough. I'm going to cover it and let it rise a bit. When it's starting to rise, I'm going to keep it in the fridge overnight. This way I don't have to get up early. It'll be ready when I am. The starter I made yesterday evening. I let it rise out of the fridge for a few hours. When I went to bed, I put it in the fridge. This way it wouldn't rise so fast because I didn't want to get up too early to make that dough. It's Sunday, so I need a little rest. So here it is. Now, if you want to have your bread ready for lunch, of course, leave it out, not in the fridge, and get up really early to start your dough. For the second dough, you need the water here. It's 550 grams of water, 2.5 cups. I'll have all the conversion and ingredients, the recipe in the description box. Then we have 1 teaspoon of yeast in the warm water, and we're going to add the starter. Now it's very liquid, so I'm going to start adding some flour. So it's 1 kilo 260 grams of bread flour with 4 teaspoons of salt in here. Mix a little bit here, the salt, I had it on top. Okay, I'm gonna slowly add it. I'm gonna do by hand first, otherwise I'm gonna be full of flour if I put it in the mixer. Just absorb a little liquid here. And of course that's a lot of dough for my small mixer, so we'll have to finish it by hand, or just can start by hand and do the whole thing by hand. Add a bit more. Now I can start to use the mixer. And slowly add the flour as much as the mixer can take. This is how much I have in the mixer and how much flour I have left. So we're going to finish all this by hand until it feels right. So this is done. It doesn't stick to the hands. It's elastic enough. It looks good. And I'm going to let it rise now, rest. This is how much flour I have left. So if it's too sticky, you would have to add all of it. If it's good enough, just leave that flour on the side, because it would make the dough a little too hard. Okay, and always it's like chocolate. It depends of the humidity you have in the house. So the more humidity, the more flour you're gonna need. All right, so this one is going to rise now in a covered container. I'm going to close it so it doesn't dry, and we'll let it more than double. Okay, it is now ready. So you can see the bubbles. The dough is ready. It's more than double. I'm going to separate it in 10 parts. This way I can have 2 trays of 5 breads. So I have all my 10 pieces of dough, about 280 grams each. Depends how much flour you put. So what we need to do is give them an oval shape to all of them. If you have time, you can let them rest 10 minutes so they can stretch a little bit more. So I'm going to take the first one. What you need to do is fold once, halfway. Fold this one over. Take the ends, fold the ends in. You fold the ends in, so it's like a little rectangle, like a little packet. And well, usually I do it this way, but just so you can see. Then you have to fold it in half onto itself and seal the bottom. Now we have the cylinder, and you can roll it until it reaches the size that you need. In that case it would be my sheet pan. Let me check. Sometimes you can just pull it a bit. It will come back. But that is the right side. See? And I have some whole wheat flour at the bottom. So we're gonna make all the other ones now. I will stretch a little bit more before they stick to the paper. My problem is that my oven is so small, I have only 2 racks, so I have to consolidate everything into 2 trays only, which is not good because as it rises, they're gonna stick to each other. But that's the best we can do at home. All right, so I'll go on and do the other pan. When you put them on the tray, make sure that the seam is at the bottom. What we usually do when we make bread, we just cover it, let it rise, and then we brush it with egg white. But it is winter, it's very dry in here. I don't want the crust to dry and prevent it from rising the right way, so I'm going to just brush it with olive oil. It'll keep it from drying. And then we are going to let it almost double. You don't want to let it rise too much because otherwise the yeast will use all the nutrients. And when you put it in the oven, there's nothing left for the yeast to eat and rise. So we have to be very careful. Also, when it's overproof, the bread will not taste as good as if the yeast is still alive. So now they're ready. When you push, it springs back, so it's okay. And we are going to make the slits to control the way they rise with a very, very sharp knife, a little bit on an angle. This is what it looks like now. I put it on a steel plate that I heated about 2 hours before I put them in at the highest possible temperature in the oven. Today we're going to make... It doesn't matter if you put the starter before the water or the water after the starter.